channel, or welcome back to my channel. As you know, this is only my second video and it's a rather personal one, but it's a story that I wanted to share. Infertility is something that is quite common, and it's something a lot of people struggle with, but not a lot of people talk about. And I just wanted to be a voice for those who don't want to talk about it, and just open up about our stories. So with that being said, thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned for our story. So as I said in the intro, this is a topic that is not discussed all that much, and for whatever reason, some women feel ashamed, like something's wrong with them, they're broken, or they just think it's a private matter that they don't want people knowing about. But I at least don't want the shame associated with infertility to continue, and I would like to do my part to help get rid of that. So I decided that I wanted to open up on my channel about my story, or our story, although as you'll come to find out, the infertility issues are with me. But I do have some talking points just so that I don't ramble too much. So if I look down, that's because I'm looking at what I typed up on my computer. It's just some points that I want to hit in this video. Excuse me. So when people do open up about infertility, a lot of times it's after the fact. Either they've successfully conceived, or it's been years and years of them trying, and then they finally decide to open up. A lot of times because they've just been asked so many times about why they don't have children, which, as I'm going to discuss, is a completely inappropriate question. But regardless, it's one that people ask often. So for whatever reason, people don't often open up about their journeys while they're going through them, or at least not initially. And when I originally brought up this idea to my husband, he encouraged me to share it, so that's another reason that I decided to make the video. When I made my YouTube channel back in February, although I didn't make my first post until last week, I created my channel in February. And at that time, I had no idea this would be a topic in my life, much less a topic for my channel. I did plan that to talk about trying to conceive, but I thought it'd only be a few months, and then the rest would be, by a few, I mean like a couple, and then the rest would be me documenting a pregnancy. But alas, that is not the case, unfortunately. So here we are, and I'm here to talk about my journey with infertility. So let me pull my list up. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to talk about was that, as I previously mentioned, people ask questions that I personally, and that many people trying to conceive, I've learned, think is completely inappropriate. Like, my husband and I got married not even a year ago, December 8th, 2018, and from the moment we got married, people started asking us when we were going to have kids. He already has a daughter from a previous relationship, my beautiful stepdaughter, Lyric, and I guess people expected that we would start right away, which was our plan. But that fact aside, I just think it's inappropriate to ask a woman when they're going to have children. For one, you don't know if they're going through infertility struggles, which we've now been faced with. Two, you don't know if they've gone through miscarriages, if they don't want children. It's just, in my opinion, it's not anyone's business what another couple decides for their lives or when they decide it. So it's just a completely inappropriate question all around. Asking when they're going to have children, how long they plan to wait, telling them they need to hurry up because the time is ticking, anything like that. It's just not appropriate in my opinion. Um, and then another thing that people do is once they find out that people are trying, they tell them to relax and it'll happen. They're trying too hard. Maybe it means they're not meant to be parents. Yes, people actually say that. Ask them if they've tried this, and this. Telling them they have plenty of time. They should just let go with the flow, basically. Telling them at least they have free time to travel, to sleep late, they get to do what they want when they want to do it, etc. It's just, don't tell people that are trying to conceive those things. It's just rude. It's inappropriate. It's not okay. It minimizes their problems, especially if they're going through infertility. So I encourage everyone to be mindful of what people are going through and not prying into their personal lives unnecessarily. Okay, so cost. Once you find out, even getting diagnosed with infertility, it can be expensive depending on your insurance or lack of insurance coverage. And once you get diagnosed, a lot of insurances only cover testing up to diagnosis, and then anything after that to try to treat infertility is considered an unnecessary medical procedure. It's not something that insurance covers. And there are very rare instances where you'll be lucky enough to have an insurance or work for a company whose insurance covers infertility. A lot of times they're self-funded insurances through private businesses or something like that. I am lucky enough. I started a new job not very long into my trying to conceive journey, and my insurance at my new job, unbeknownst to me, covered infertility. It has a $25,000 lifetime maximum for treatment and $10,000 lifetime maximum for medicine, which is a godsend. I could not be doing anything that I've done without it. My husband's not with my insurance, but thankfully the issue's not with him, so my coverage is such a blessing. I have no clue what we'd do without it. We wouldn't be having a child probably ever, or not anytime soon, because fertility treatments are expensive. Just the testing alone is outrageous. I've gone to 2 fertility appointments, and I've had blood work. My first one was a consultation, which would have been $350 out of pocket, and that deposit, with a $100 deposit, the money would have eventually gone to treatments. However, my insurance covered that up front. I did have to, when I booked my appointment, I did have to pay a $100 deposit, and the rest would have been due at the appointment. However, between you making the appointment and your actual consultation appointment, they verify your insurance to see what's covered, and they called me to confirm my appointment and let me know that my insurance was going to cover the appointment, so I was able to get my $100 deposit back. Then at the actual consultation, I had blood work done. I had, I think, 6 vials of blood drawn for a complete blood workup, which I will discuss later. And my second appointment, I had a special type of x-ray called an HSG, follow-up blood work. A lot of it was repeat from the week before, and oral glucose tolerance test. And just those 2 appointments with those tests, I recently got my explanation of benefits from my insurer, and without the discounts that insurance companies get, the total cost was $6,700, which that's for 2 visits and some testing. So obviously that's not something that people are prepared to shell out. Like, at the drop of a hat like that. That's that kind of money. It would put a huge dent in a family's budget. And I'm just extremely grateful that my insurance has covered all of it. I've yet to pay anything. A lot of it was covered under diagnostic testing, so it didn't even go towards my $25,000 maximum. I think I called the other day, and I think about $330 or $370 has gone towards my $25,000 maximum. So I still have a long way to go in case this journey continues for a lot longer. Thank God. But so yes, the cost of this is astronomical, and it is extremely rare that someone has insurance that will pay for it. It's really unfortunate because although, yeah, I guess I could see how having children is not a medical necessity because it's not putting you at risk, your health at risk. It's something that is important to a lot of people, and a lot of people are like, well, why don't you just go adopt? You can't just run out and adopt without spending a lot of money, unless you do foster to adopt, which is not a guaranteed adoption route. So just when people say they're going through infertility, be mindful of things like that. Our story. I'm a tad nervous just because this topic's extremely personal, but it's one that I think needs and deserves to be talked about. So as I said, my husband and I got married December 8th, 2018. It has now been 10 months since we got married. However, this is our 12th cycle. We're now in our 12th cycle of trying because my cycles are kind of short, so I'll have 2 overlapping months, like I'll have 2 in 1 month sometimes. So we started this immediately after we got married. The beginning of February, I had a yearly appointment with my OB, and I told her that we were trying. She said, I told her my family history, that I have a close relative who struggled with infertility. I'm not going to talk about their story because I haven't talked to them about it, and I don't want to put their business out there. But given all that information, my doctor, and I was 30 at the time of that appointment. Since then, I've had a birthday. She decided that if after 6 months of trying, nothing had happened, that we would make an appointment, reevaluate, and from there decide our next steps. So that was February 4th, I think I had that appointment. So fast forward 6 months was June. I called and made an appointment for July. So, well, that was 6 months from when I started trying, which was when she told me to make the appointment. So July came. July 18th, I had an appointment with my doctor and told her we still hadn't gotten pregnant. And this was after trying. From the very beginning, I tracked my basal body temperature, which tells you after the fact if you ovulated. Pre-ovulation, your temperatures are low. Post-ovulation, they're elevated by about 1 degree. And so you can look, and you graph it on a chart. I use an app called Fertility Friend, and from there you can tell the day you ovulated. I also used OPK strips, which are ovulation prediction kits, and those are tests. They work the same as pregnancy tests, but they tell you beforehand if you're about to ovulate. It measures a hormone called the luteinizing hormone, or LH, and if once you have an LH surge and the test becomes positive, that means you're going to ovulate in the next 12 to 36 hours. It's not as accurate as measuring your basal body temperature because sometimes people have LH surges and then they don't actually ovulate. So I was tracking both at the same time. I started from the month we first started trying in December. So by the time I had my appointment in July, I knew that everything was looking fine. We were timing correctly, and yet we weren't conceiving. So I told my doctor this, and she referred me to the fertility doctor in our city. Fertility specialists are reproductive endocrinologists, and if they're not, then I personally think you're at a disadvantage by going to someone who says they're a fertility specialist but they're not a reproductive endocrinologist, because REs just are much better equipped knowledge-wise to help you get pregnant. So I said everything looked fine on my charts. At the beginning, I had what's called a short luteal phase, or luteal phase defect, where my post-ovulation period was too short. The window was too short for a fertilized egg to implant, but I found out that if you take B6 and B12, that can improve that, and within the same month of me starting taking it, it did. So it turns out I likely had a B6 or B12 vitamin deficiency. So that resolved rather quickly. So, fast forward to me meeting with the reproductive endocrinologist. I got referred on July 18th. I had my first appointment August 6th, I believe. And there the doctor did, let me pull up my blood work. So there the doctor did a full blood panel. We did a comprehensive metabolic panel. He tested my antibodies. He tested my blood type, which is A negative, and if you have negative blood, that means you're Rh negative. And if your partner has positive blood, then that could be an issue during pregnancy. It's a lot to explain, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. But he tested to see if I was Rh negative, or if I had developed antibodies from being Rh negative. And I'm trying to pull up my blood work to see what else I got tested for. And I got tested for varicella, which is chicken pox. I had chicken pox when I was a child, so my antibodies for that were super high, which means I have immunity. I got tested for rubella antibodies, and my immunity was in between having no immunity and being immune. I forgot what the word is when you're in between those two things. But so I needed an MMR booster, which I got the next week, and then from there you can't try it for 28 days because it's a live vaccine. And rubella is mumps, and that can cause, having the mumps virus can cause birth defects. So you have to wait after getting that vaccine to continue trying. As I said, I got my blood type tested, got my antibodies for that tested, and no antibodies were detected. Sickle cell, they tested me for sickle cell, and I was negative for sickle cell gene. They tested my prolactin, my luteinizing hormone, FSH, estrogen, hemoglobin A1C, which tells how your blood sugar, it tells your blood sugar levels over a past 3-month period, and that was fine. My insulin, which also came out fine my first test. TSH, it tests your thyroid hormone, and that came out fine my first test of it, it came out fine, but was on the high end of fine. And testosterone was fine. So I got all these things tested my first appointment. I set up an appointment for the next week to get an HSG, which they inject dye into your uterus and then test to see if your fallopian tubes are clear. That happened a week later, and we set up an appointment for my husband. We paid for my husband out of pocket since he's not on my insurance, and that test for him was $150. he came back excellent. So, which is why I say all the issues are with me. The next week, we did an HSG, and we repeated the blood work from the week before. My thyroid levels came back high. I also did an oral glucose tolerance test because my doctor wanted to see if I was insulin resistant, since my relative has PCOS as well. I say as well, I don't have PCOS. My relative has PCOS, which also causes insulin resistance. So I got tested for insulin resistance that week. A week later, my test results came back. My thyroid level was much higher. I failed the glucose tolerance test. It's the same test women get to test for gestational diabetes. I'm not diabetic. My blood sugar levels were elevated, but they were only slightly above normal, so I'm classified as insulin resistant, and that means that my body's cells don't respond to insulin properly, so then the glucose in my blood doesn't get converted to energy, and it just causes a increase in blood glucose. So eventually that can lead to prediabetes and then type 2 diabetes, which I obviously don't want to happen, and I have relatives that have had type 2 diabetes, so I'm also prone to it because of that. So my thyroid levels were also high. This means that I have hypothyroidism. They were also only slightly elevated. In hypothyroidism, it means your thyroid's underactive. It doesn't produce enough of your thyroid hormones, which can cause a slower metabolism, fatigue, weight gain, brain fog, depression. It can cause you to feel cold when other people aren't, dry hair, dry skin, a low pulse. And it just so happened I had gone to the doctor in May, I think, for a shoulder pain that I was having, and they took my pulse there and were shocked at how low it was. But I often wear an Apple Watch, which tracks your pulse, and my pulse is always low. For years I've worn it, and it has been, which I told them, and I think that having hypothyroidism could have been part of that. So both insulin resistance and hypothyroidism can cause infertility. The body works the way the body works is crazy. That those things would cause reproductive issues, you wouldn't think, you wouldn't automatically think that's the case, but it is. And those are very common causes of infertility. So my doctor prescribed me metformin for the insulin resistance to make my body respond to the insulin it's producing properly, and lower my blood sugar. And then they also prescribe levothyroxine, commonly known as Synthroid, which is it replaces your thyroid hormones, since my thyroid's underactive. So he told me to take those for 8 weeks, and then we'd have follow-up blood work to make sure they're working properly. And then from there, if everything's fine, we'll start an ovulation induction medicine, probably Clomid. 8 weeks will be in 2 weeks, I think. Let me look at the calendar real quick. My 8 weeks, today's the 5th. My 8 weeks will be in a week and a half. So there I'll get repeat blood work again to make sure that my levels are good, and then I can start medicine. Excuse me. He wants me to do ovulation induction medicine. Although I ovulate on my own, all signs point to the fact that I ovulate on my own. He thinks that would be the best route to go, because it can enhance ovulation. It can make you ovulate more than one egg, and also increase the maturity of the eggs you ovulate. So you'll get better quality eggs and more of them, so there'll be more targets whenever you're trying. So I'm really looking forward to that. I can't wait. I will hopefully be starting it at the end of October, and hopefully, God willing, we will have a baby by, or we'll be pregnant by the end of the year. Maybe by our anniversary. What else did I want to talk about? I think I talked about most of the things I had on the list. Obviously, there's a whole lot more that goes into trying to conceive and infertility, but I didn't want this video to be too long, and I just wanted it to be an introduction into what we've been going through so far. Although I'm able to talk about it like it's whatever, believe me, over these last 12 months or 12 cycles, it has not been easy. It's a emotional roller coaster when every month you're not pregnant and you want to be. It is some of the most devastating news in the world, but at the same time, I try to stay positive. I know that people struggle for much longer. I'm now 31, so while my biological clock is ticking, I do still have time. My mother had my little brother at 39, which my doctor says is great for my reproductive prospects as far as how long I have left to be able to have kids. So that's really great. Thanks, Mom. But yeah, it's been quite a struggle every month, but I move on pretty quickly to the next month. I'm always tracking. I take my temperature, my basal body temperature every morning. It actually it's pretty interesting. I've learned a ton of stuff about the reproductive process that I personally think women especially should know about all the time, but for some reason it's not something that most women don't have no clue how reproduction works. Men especially men. But until you go through this kind of struggle, then you end up learning so much. I think that's all I had for this video. Going forward, I am going to provide updates on my journey, my appointment coming up. I will make a video after that, and once I get the results back from that and can start the medicine. I hear that Clomid can cause mood swings and stuff like that, so that'll be interesting once I get to start that to see how I respond. But I am excited, and this has taught me so much. I had no idea that this was going to be my journey and my husband's journey along with me, but it has given me a newfound appreciation for the miracle of life. Just the normal healthy couple only has about a 30% chance of getting pregnant each month to begin with, so to have issues on top of that just makes it almost impossible, really, unless you get them treated. It's like a miracle. Really, it's a miracle. With that being said, I think that's it. Yeah, so look forward to updating you guys. Hopefully soon enough, in the next few months, there will be a pregnancy update, and so stay tuned for that. If you have anything else, my channel is not going to turn into a pregnancy channel, I promise. If you have any other things you want me to make videos on, I haven't been wearing my hair curly lately. This is fake curly, but I have super curly hair. But I will be doing hair care videos once I start wearing my hair curly again. Maybe once it gets cooler. I'll be making more cooking videos. I have a couple requests. I have a gumbo request. I have a chicken Alfredo request. So I'll make some videos on that eventually. I told my friend that I would make the gumbo video once it got colder. Louisiana, it stayed hot forever. Whenever I start buying some things, I will make some reviews. And if you have any other requests, let me know.